And just a reminder, sporting clubs around Australia were decimated by the huge casualties suffered at Gallipoli. As Neil Kearney reports, one VFL club in particular was hit so hard.
A 100 years ago, these were the heroes of football's elite competition, the Victorian Football League. Among them, stars from the University Club, including their leading goal kicker, Albert Hartkopf. When the First World War was declared, over 400,000 Australians answered the call to fight for king and country. Over 60,000 would never return. The Victorian Football League team worst affected by the First World War was University. It lost 19 players, many of them here at Gallipoli. And when you think about it, they were some of the most promising young people in Australia, not just in the sporting field, but what they might have done in general life. Of the 69 Victorian League players killed in the war, University suffered by far the worst of the 10 clubs.
Why did so many university players become casualties of war?
Because they were the junior officers. They were the junior officers because they were graduates and students of a university, and the university produced people to lead, and they took that responsibility.
You know, this was a group of generally pretty smart young blokes who were ambitious, keen for what they thought was going to be an adventure, and felt a sense of duty to contribute and give back. And they thought they could do that by going off and fighting in the war.
Jack Maxwell, a 24-year-old law student who plays for University Blues, often thinks of those young men.
You know, there's a sense of youthful excitement because we've got our lives ahead of us, and you're just really enjoying all the new possibilities that coming to university is providing, studying, playing football, getting to know new people. And to have all that just snatched away, it's hard to think it would just all stop there.
It's just unimaginable to think that you might have 19 of the young men that are playing football out here could be killed out of a playing group of 50 or 60.
In the years leading up to war, medical students had often dominated the university football team, which had been admitted to the league ahead of Richmond in 1908.
In 1909, we were obviously playing in the league, and in round 16 we played Collingwood, and we fielded 13 either medical graduates or students. Now, you might think that you'd need 13 medical graduates or students if you're playing Collingwood, and I can also say this, that was the closest we ever got to beating them because the scores at full time were 5-9 apiece.
One of university's most gifted students and footballers was amongst the first killed during the landing at ANZAC Cove.
Rupert Balfe was not only a champion footballer, but he was the captain of his school at University High School. He was a champion athlete. He was studying medicine here at the university, and his death is recorded on the 25th of April 1915.
That means he virtually didn't get out of the boat.
That's it.
And that life's over.
That life is over.
Chris Fogarty played footy for University and for Essendon. He was a lieutenant in the 24th Division. Many of the students were made officers simply because they were well educated. Unfortunately for them, that made them a prime target for the enemy. Chris lost his life here at Lone Pine on the 29th of November, just 3 weeks before Gallipoli was evacuated. This is the headstone to Lieutenant Arthur Hinman, who also played for University. He was a geology student from Launceston. Sadly, he lost his life here at Queen's Post on the 10th of May 1915. He was just 24. University Football Club was so decimated by war it never returned to the big league. It remains the only truly amateur club ever to have played in football's elite professional competition. Today, 2 teams from university, Blacks and Blues, are in the Premier Division of the Victorian Amateur Football Association. And this afternoon, the 2 are playing each other in memory of those men who gave their lives.
Who knows what they would have made of themselves? I'm sure something amazing. And it was that kind of spirit that saw them go over there in the first place.
The young men that are at this university were talented, they were capable, and they were trained. And it was their duty to volunteer and lead other young men, and that's what they did.
Do you think they knew what they were in for?
No, I don't think anybody knew what they were in for.
A sense of duty and adventure and youthful experience. A great story from Neil Kearney. And it's hard to believe that they would have got off the boat and sometimes it lasted seconds, their adventure with the war.
Well, I've been to ANZAC Cove, and the only thing that really hits you is obviously in the infantry, it's high ground's what you want to get, and the beach is a long way below the cliffs, so they would have been sitting ducks, and that's been part of the history of it all, hasn't it?
They also weren't the only ones who were really affected. I think a couple of waffle clubs, North Fremantle, they were one that were hit really hard, where they lost 12 players from their team, and the club was no more after that. The other one was the Midland Junction. They were 1905 to 1917. They were part of the Waffle, and they lost 9 men, and it was all over for them as a football club as well. So a lot of football clubs around the country were affected by the war. And also one of the favourites, John Hookie Doig, was a guy who played 225 games for East Fremantle, and part of the Doig family, where the Doig medal for the best and fairest for the Fremantle Football Club is handed out. He's part of that family, so he was, I guess, the champion of that era, and he lost his life in 1917.
Lee, Tony wrote a great article yesterday. He said they were not old, those forests of men who were cut down. Almost every one of them should have been in the most robust period of their life. All those children they would not father, all those mothers and fathers left struggling with the knowledge that their sons were no more. There are 2,800 sets of siblings that have been lost to war. I mean, imagine losing all of your children.
Well, you do the basic mathematics. About 25% of the 20 to 40 kind of male population of that era went to war, and
staggering.
60,000 obviously didn't return. So it's massive numbers, isn't it, of the population at that point of time.
Terrifying numbers. Still Sidebottom, who'll join us in just a moment, but injured bomber Heath Hocking, he's no stranger to performing on Anzac Day, but today he's injured and he's trading in his footy boots for a chef's hat, teaming up with chef Adrian Richardson. He's going to serve up an Anzac-inspired feast for the 700 people at the Essendon Chairman's function.